I was the test planning engineer on it. And our very first machine was unloaded on Streatham Hill. And as the lorry loaded it down onto the ground, it toppled over and crashed, and that was the end of that. And I was to blame because that was part of my brief, was to make products that would stand on their own two feet. This one didn't. So I went home that night and I said to my mum, because I was still living at home then, I'm going to have to find something different to do with my life, because I clearly don't like engineering. I was sitting at her kitchen table, and there was a copy of the Daily Telegraph on there. And I opened it to the jobs page, and there was an ad which did what it said on the tin. It said these words in letters 3/4 of an inch high. It said, "The next 30 seconds could change your entire life." And it did. It was an ad for Xerox looking for trainee salespeople for their plain paper copies. Though young ones amongst you don't remember a time when there weren't only plain paper copies. But in the olden days, when I was a boy, most copiers had like light sensitive paper. This was the first one to have this. Anyway, to cut a very long story short, it did change everything for me. They taught me to sell, they taught me to change my attitude to life, and as a boy who left school with one O-level or GCSE, I've got to thank them forevermore. In my sales career since 1970, I've sold everything from copying machines to books, from industrial catering services for a company called Bateman Catering in Abbey Wood in South East London, to high-value financial services for the news agency Reuters. My last bona fide job employment was as Director of Sales Training for Reuters. I lived 6 years in New York. I worked for them all over the world. It's great, an Englishman teaching New Yorkers how to sell. I still work all over the world. I still do what I did then. I've written 4 books. Didn't like the idea of writing books, but I stuck with it because my marketing guy said I should do. One of them, called Cold Calling for Chickens, at the moment has 92 reviews, which range, I must tell you, from brilliant, which I like, to disgraceful, which I don't like so much. However, the guy must be a vicar somewhere in North London, that said that he awarded it 5 stars, which is a bit strange because he said it was a rotten book. But he said it was just so that people would read it and wonder why he'd done that. It made no sense to me whatsoever. I was recently anointed by the Sales Innovation Expo as Europe's Best Sales Trainer 2015-2016. I didn't get it this year because I wanted to give somebody else a chance. But hey, I mean, what do I really mind about that? I'm by no means perfect or a business guru. I've learnt how to sell mostly by making mistakes. I did an interview for the FT last year, and they said, "Have you learned from your mistakes?" And I said, "Yes, I can now repeat them all perfectly." I have to tell you, why is selling so important? I have to tell you this because in my long experience since 1970, I have to tell you that for any commercial enterprise, and that can be your dentist, can be a software designer, a cleaning company, there is nothing more important than sales. There is plenty of product out there, whether your product is a product or a service. What there is a shortage of people who know how to sell it successfully. And if you learn how to do it well, believe me, you'll have a wonderful time, you'll make a lot of money, and you will never, ever be unemployed again. Because there's a shortage of people who can sell properly. And this organisation, SOSI, I think it goes, SOSI, let's call it SOSI, yeah. The Society of Sales Innovation exists to provide you with the latest up-to-date knowledge of how to sell well. Because when I learned to sell, this was way back, as I say, in 1970, I was taught by Xerox a system which was owned by Xerox then called PSS. These days we call it feature benefit selling. And the amazing thing is that a lot of companies are still selling that same type of service today. And it's just absolutely useless. I went to a sales seminar in the city a year ago, and it was the same seminar I went to back in 1980. The same guy is still running it. And basically I sat there, and it could have been 30 years ago. The content was basically the same. And yet, the only thing that has changed about selling in the last 30 years is everything. Everything has changed about the way you go about selling. We now know, for example, that all human decision-making is not what I was taught, which is factual and evidence-based. It isn't at all. It's based on human emotions, how people feel about things. Do you know good-looking people in a court of law tend to get away with crimes more often because people like them? Not because they're not bad people. And attitude has plays such a huge part. If I do a big circle in the air, this is a pie chart of what makes a great salesperson. And we've got to have selling skills in there, we've got to have product knowledge, and we've got to have attitude. Let's start with attitude first. Because Xerox years ago did a big study in what makes best salespeople, and they discovered this. If I start at the top of my big pie chart, and we've got to get sales, we've got to get sales skills, we've got to get product knowledge, we've got to get attitude in there. If I start with attitude first, and we start to go around the circle, you tell me when you think we've got enough attitude, according to the surveys. Tell me, stop me whenever you like. Stop there? Yeah. Anyone want to stop before? Yeah. All the surveys say that the people who make the best salespeople are in fact the people with